Good afternoon. Welcome everyone to this live Q&A session with Kite. We have here Moayed. He yeah, he will shortly tell you something about his job, how his function looks like, and then we want to open the floor to you for questions to him. Um thank you very much for being here, Moayed, and the floor is yours.
My pleasure. Hello, everyone. Nice to virtually meet you. As Remco said, my name is Moayed. I'm from Limerick, Ireland. I'm 32 years old, and I'm an MSAT process engineer within Kite Pharma, specifically in the Advanced Process and Technical Support Unit. I've been working at Kite Pharma for just over 5 years now. So January 2020 was when I started, before we even had this incredible facility which we've built here. I moved over from Ireland specifically to work for Kite Pharma uh, after being contacted by some recruiters and learning about this new technology which they've managed to eventually commercialize and become industry leaders in. I'm happy to answer some questions for you guys and girls about my position and what it's like to work for a company like Kite Pharma specifically.
Yes. Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, indeed. So please all type your questions in the live Q&A. I will then read them out so they can be answered in the process. And perhaps kicking off as well, clarification question. So you said you moved from Ireland and then I assume to Hoofddorp, to the site there of Kite. Or
I moved to Amsterdam specifically. Yeah, yeah.
okay,
I
yeah.
live in Amsterdam, but I moved. Yeah, I moved from Ireland to the Netherlands and specifically Amsterdam.
Yes. Yeah,
Yeah,
thank you. Um,
expat hub, I suppose.
exactly, yeah. So there's a few questions already coming in. One of them being, for example, the location Hoofddorp is mainly focused on manufacturing. Are there also master research internship positions there or more
Uh,
research focused jobs?
Not necessarily. As you said, Kite Pharma TCF4 is specifically a manufacturing focused facility. However, within manufacturing science and technology, we do have um, one of the sub teams is the laboratory team, and basically what they do rather is more of uh, I wouldn't say research. There is no development work done here. That's all done stateside. What we do, they do more kind of development supportive work. So they do run some experiments. For example, if we want to assess one of the components in our media, or we want to optimize a certain, um, uh, let's say we want to change one of the parameters within our process, these kind of studies are done to an extent in the laboratory subunit of MSAT. But if you're looking for real research, that this isn't the facility or the yeah where that's conducted.
Yeah, thank you. Then there's a couple of questions on, yeah, essentially what do you need to become a, a process engineer? What educational background do you need? So perhaps could you tell something about your educational background and that you see of your colleagues? And yeah, what
Yeah.
in your opinion you would need to become a process engineer?
Yes. So actually, it's very interesting because so just a bit about myself. So in Ireland, my undergrad was pharmaceutical and industrial chemistry. So the first 2 years of that undergrad was heavily focused on analytical, organic, inorganic, and physical chemistry, and the later years, the last 2 years of my bachelor's degree, were quite heavily focused on process technology and pharmaceutical formulation. And then I really wanted to move away from the heavy engineering side and more into the analytical and the chemistry side of things, because after my master's, I did go and work for another American biotech company called Eli Lilly, where I worked in the bioassay lab. So my master's was analytical chemistry, focused more on the biochem and the immunosensor technology. And that's what I did my research in. And then I went and I worked for Eli Lilly, whereby I worked in the bioassay lab, so basically assays of potency testing for release testing of batches to the market for different monoclonal antibody-based drugs. And historically, to become a process engineer in biotech and in organic small molecule based companies, you generally had to have a chemical engineering background. You really had to understand engineering principles, uh, you know, chromatography, filtration, scale up, for biotech specifically. But what I've noticed in the last 5 years, as someone who's worked in small molecule biotech and now the advanced therapeutical medicinal product industry, which is the latest, I guess, the latest version of pharma, let's say, is that there isn't any specific real requirements. I think if it's quite broad. So in Kite, you do see that people come from all different backgrounds. Some are very research based, some are industry heavy. We have chemical people in who are process engineers who have really just studied chemical engineering and engineering principles, but also the likes of me who came from a more of a scientific background, did some research. And you have people from biomedical engineering. You have people who studied organic chemistry, analytical, a lot of biochemistry. So this is the one thing I do have to really praise Kite for, is that it's not so specific, because the technology is relatively new for everybody. So as long as you have the right mindset and the drive and the ability to learn and push yourself, it's fairly open. You do see a wide range of backgrounds.
Thank you. Then, yeah, perhaps a, a related question is, yeah, so what are the development opportunities at Kite?
Yeah, so Kite, being startup, kind of approaching scale up, um, the development opportunities are massive. So when I started, I was a cell therapy specialist. So what we did is, the cell therapy specialist's role is the physical um, manufacturing operations. So we worked, and this current cell therapy specialists work in um, highly developed clean rooms, whereby we perform basically cell culturing. So our process is a 7 to 10 day process performed in a B grade environment, and um, it's a very hands on manual process. So you're really dealing with a lot of culture, a lot of cell counting, a lot of uh, aseptic technique, aseptic behavior, a lot of work in the biological safety cabinet. It is quite demanding, and you are in full aseptic gowning. Um, I did that for 2 years. I was able to show my drive and apply the knowledge I've gained through my studies, but also the knowledge I gained um, at Kite Pharma. And I went and quickly developed from CTS1 to CTS2, and then I was hired across to, at the time, Manufacturing Technical Services, which then merged with MSAT, and I progressed at MSAT. And I do have a lot of colleagues who started with me as one of the first few cell therapy specialists, who went into quality assurance, who went and moved into quality engineering. Some went into the lab side of MSAT. So there absolutely is a lot of growth potential at Kite, but also a lot of room to move departments and kind of cross functionally develop your skills. Yeah, more so than any other company I've worked at, for sure.
Thank you. And yeah, you already described a bit how your job looked like as a cell engineer and such. How does your job look like, your everyday responsibilities, your tasks, everyday day or week perhaps as a process engineer?
Yeah, so as a process engineer, yeah, your tasks are, of course, very different. So I would say three of the core functions of a process engineer is to provide frontline support. So one of the key components of my role is to basically troubleshoot uh, events that occur on the manufacturing floor. Okay, so of course we have a highly regulated process. Not only is it highly regulated, it's probably the most regulated of any pharma company, because our treatments are individualized to patients. So, and our patients are very sick. So our level of scrutiny from the regulatory bodies is quite high, meaning that we have to be very careful, and we have to ensure that when anything goes wrong, that we have done the correct mitigation actions to prevent risk to the patient from a quality standpoint and safety standpoint, but also to ensure that we can release that product. and also to put in actions that prevent these events from happening again. So one of my key activities is, yeah, to provide this frontline support. So they'll come up, they'll escalate. Hey, this happened during the day 3 cell count. We observed a viability below the criteria. How do we proceed? So then you have to provide the corrective actions and then perform an investigation, which are called deviations. So we have to provide evidence to quality that we've investigated the root cause and also assess the impact so that we can confirm that this event that happened is not going to potentially put risk to the patient, and that we can the qualified person can then release the batch. That's one of the key components of my role. Another role is continuous improvement projects. So we always look for ways to continuously optimize our process, make it more robust. So we always look for ways to uh, develop our equipment, to yeah, optimize, you know, kind of create standardized ways of working for our operators so that we can eliminate as many human errors as possible, for example, and kind of engineer out any non-human related issues. So the more we can engineer out failure modes, the more of a consistent process we have. And then we have less deviations, less investigations. Also, that's cost saving, but also lets us get product to patient faster. And then um, training. So we used to give a lot of training to operators, but that's now been outsourced back to manufacturing. But I would say those two continuous improvements projects, which is a huge engineering principle, and frontline support are two of the, let's say, the meat and the potatoes of the work we do at MSAT.
Yes, thank you. And yeah, so those are then your main tasks and yeah, responsibilities. So how does your average day or week then, for example, look like? Desk work, meetings in the lab, external travel, name something.
Yeah, I've been fortunate to, as I said, work in uh, cross manufacturing and MSAT and MTS before it was merged. So I also had the opportunity to travel to the US. So I went to Maryland, where we have our facility called TCF5, and they were the first to implement a semi-automated process. So I was sent there to gain knowledge before we performed a tech transfer to TCF4 and bring in that semi-automated technology. My day-to-day process, as I become more senior as an engineer, you do have a lot of autonomy over your work. It's a lot of project work, but some of the key things is closing out these deviations. So when, again, on frontline support, when these events occur that are outside, potentially outside of our validated process, or our regulatory submissions or our procedures, then we have to investigate. These investigations can take a month to 45 days, can take yeah, a couple of weeks. So and we get a lot of these, right? Because a lot of things can go wrong on the manufacturing floor. So a lot of my work would be to investigate and close out these records. It involves interviewing operators to figure out what the root cause is, performing root cause analysis, and then uh, uh, I suppose capturing these in our quality system, this investigation. And then a lot of my work would also be cross-functional stakeholder management. So I own multiple change controls for introducing new equipment to better support our business. So this involves a lot of stakeholder management, because you have to, you know, perform qualification of new equipment, you have to commission, qualify, you have to validate, you have to create procedures for new equipment, you have to create awarenesses to the site about this new equipment and what it entails. You have to perform impact assessments. So a lot of my projects are change control based, which essentially means, in short, a lot of meetings with a lot of cross-functional stakeholders. And another task would be, for example, audits. As a subject matter expert, I have to defend our procedures and our processes against regulatory visits. So it's quite varying. It's quite varying, I have to say.
Yes, thank you. Um, Another question perhaps is yeah, about the current job openings that are available on the website. So, for example, there's now 3 job openings on the Dutch site. Are there also open positions for laboratory functions, or yeah, is the website really exhaustive, or yeah, how does this work?
Um, I wouldn't be the best person to answer this question. I don't really look at the current job openings, but generally, though, yeah, any job openings that are available should be available on the website. Kite does kind of really market their positions out to the public, but there is sometimes, I believe, and I can't say with 100% certainty, that there is roles that are only potentially marketed to within the organization. You know that they want somebody within the organization. So whatever I believe is on the website is what's available to the public. Yes, we do have QC services here, laboratory positions, but to my knowledge, I'm not sure if they're available at the moment.
Yeah, thank you.
Or is,
Then there's a couple of questions about yeah education level. So, for example, are there opportunities for master graduates? Most positions posted are for bachelor positions, higher level positions.
yeah.
How can an educate?
Um,
Yeah,
yeah. I really don't think it matters that much, so to speak, because from my, as I said, I've been here for yeah since the building was even upright and constructed. There is people of all education levels, and we also have people who don't have bachelors or masters because these people who are able to who come from working in different industries where they're very good at following procedures, so they're excellent operators. Who might not come from a research background or a highly technical or scientific or engineering background, but are excellent people at following uh, standing operated procedures, which is what you need in a GMP environment. So you do see across our, at least in the from the cell therapy specialist side, um, most people it's quite varying. We have bachelors. I come from Ireland, so we only have bachelors and masters. I know you guys here have HBO and MBO and different levels, but my knowledge is that there's people of all levels at Kite. You may just start at a cell therapy technician if you want to go into the operation, into the manufacturing operation side. But as a process engineer, you generally need to have some GMP experience. Absolutely. We I'm not aware of anybody who's currently a process engineer who came in from directly from school, especially in our industry because it is still relatively new. So the knowledge is very much yeah required, I would say. But as I said, there's a lot of growth opportunities. So come in as a CTS, a cell therapy specialist. We get to work hands on delivering this patient, this material to patients, this treatment to patients. Sorry, get to work hands on with the patient's blood and culture the cells, and that I think really builds a really strong knowledge base, which helps you grow within Kite, and that's what you see with a lot of the engineers currently at MSAT.
yeah, thank you. So also master graduates or PhD graduates, they can apply for positions, and are there positions for those educational levels then in the Netherlands?
Um, I would contact talent acquisition about this. I'm not in a position to answer directly what currently they're looking at. All I can say is I know there's people of all levels at Kite. Um, so I would be surprised if you needed if there were no positions for masters. I have a master's. Many people with masters working there, but I'm not sure if the current openings align with the current with the applicants. So maybe the applicant is someone with a PhD and experience in industry, but the only opening is a first level, lower level, entry level cell therapy specialist. Then I'm not sure if that's something they'd want to pursue. But yeah, I would advise to contact talent acquisition to get a more accurate answer, I would say.
Yes, thank you. Um, yeah, then there's a question on what are the different facilities in the Netherlands and types of work and jobs there. I think on the works and jobs you already elaborated the types of functions,
Mhm.
but perhaps are there different facilities than in Hoofddorp?
No, so Kite Pharma is just one facility, TCF of four. Yeah. And here we have many functions. We have HR in the same facility, MSAT, manufacturing, quality assurance, which is the lab services, um, talent acquisition, facilities and engineering, maintenance, validation. So our facility here is the one facility for Kite Pharma, and we host and hold every department.
Yes, thank you. Then, yeah, do you perhaps have any advice on the people here now in this session on finding their first job, either in general or at Kite?
Yeah, so it's very difficult to get your first role, right? So I'm not sure what the background is of the current because I also can't see any faces, so I'm not sure who's currently attending. So maybe Remco, you can just give me an idea of the current audience.
Yes, so there's roughly 150 people in this session with, yeah, diverse backgrounds. If I look at who signed in, it's people with a master's background, a bachelor's background, PhDs, mainly in the life sciences. So, for example,
Right.
biochemistry, pharmaceutical sciences, etc.
Yeah. 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 So I mean, from my own experience, all I will say is the the dynamic of the pharmaceutical and biotech industry is extremely changing, and it is very dynamic. So, as I said in the past, to become a chemical engineer or a process engineer, generally you needed chemical engineering background, at least in Ireland where I grew up, and your studies generally quite reflected where you were going to work. I do not see that anymore. I see that the lines are completely blurred, and I think, employers are now realizing that just because someone studied something specifically doesn't mean they're only able to excel in that one area, you know, which is good because in my idea, it should be the principles that you learn, right? That if you study chemistry, say organic chemistry, you're or analytical, and you're very analytical thinking, you're driven, you study well, you do well, your problem solving and your research shows that you're able to kind of work uh, autonomously, you're able to think critically, then I am very much in the belief that at least at Kite Pharma I can speak on is that the opportunities are really open, and that employers aren't looking through a small window with specific words or criteria within a CV of a person or resume. I would say the advice I would give is to be open minded. You know, just because something isn't exactly what you studied um, doesn't mean you're not going to enjoy it and excel. You know, I never would have imagined when I was studying pharmaceutical and industrial chemistry and then analytical and doing research and developing electrochemical immunosensors that I would be working in going from sensing and separations to becoming a process engineer in a CAR T cell company. So we are in the age where things are changing rapidly, and employers and I think people are quickly realizing that skill sets are able to be applied across many functions and many areas. So I would say just generally be open minded. Don't be afraid to apply for roles that you feel are maybe too big for you. You know, I'm always under the belief that when it comes to projects at work, I always say yes first, and I'll learn it on the go. You know, if you're driven enough and you're willing to learn and you really want to understand something, then I think give yourself the chance, go for it, and just see where it takes you. I just don't limit yourself. That's really what I'd say. The industry and the dynamic is truly changing. So don't be afraid if you feel underqualified or even overqualified in many instances. Right, PhD people in the past have had struggles to get industry roles because they're too niche focused. But I think the industry is changing. So just step outside your comfort zone. It will pay. It will pay you dividends.
Yes, thank you following up perhaps with a much more practical question, do you know if Kite offers sponsorship opportunities for foreign workers, or is that a more HR department related question?
Yeah, I would say ask HR about that. I would say I do believe there is some sort of programs. We do have people who work here from as far as India. So Kite is extremely multicultural. I've never seen anything like it. I think we have people from the company has people from over 70 countries. Um, so we have a massive diverse background of people with a lot of different educational backgrounds and cultural backgrounds. I think which is why actually we've been so successful in an industry leader because we've massive kind of variance in mindsets and ways of working, which has let us be able to kind of keep ahead of the competition. But with specifically to that question, I would contact HR and talent acquisition because I can't answer to that.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, and indeed,
Yeah,
perhaps drop by the booth of Kite to ask the question there as well, or connect with the people in the meeting hub.
yeah,
Um, yeah, then there is a question of which parts have been answered already, but not in fully because it consists of multiple parts. But yeah, please address then the parts that you have not discussed yet.
yeah.
So, what are some of the challenges you face in your role as process engineer? What is your approach to resolve them? And what are key skills that one could develop to be successful as a process engineer?
Yeah, good question. Some of the challenges is I would say the rate of change within the company. Um, Kite is a company. So we used to have a phrasing when we started this token phrasing, kite speed. So we used to do things at just super speed, and people would, when the company set its goals on a target, set its target on a specific goal, the rate at which we would achieve that was mind-boggling. Which again goes back to my last answer, which is why I believe we've been an industry leader and maintain that position is how committed everybody is. That comes, of course, with its own challenges because um, sometimes projects don't go to plan. Sometimes, leadership team have different ideas. You never know what perhaps comes out of the regulatory bodies, and then you have to adapt and pivot. So I would say the rate of change. But however, as we've become more of an established, come out of that startup phase into more of a scale up, we see less of that. I do say the work is challenging. You don't come here and I think there's two ways you can approach work. You can come and really push yourself, and you will absolutely be rewarded. Uh, but some people are happy to come in and just do, you know, the honest, a good day's work, and yeah. So I guess what I'm trying to get at is I, the amount of projects we try to accomplish at one time for me is one of the most challenging aspects of working at Kite because we are trying to stay ahead, and that comes with a lot of pressure because you have a fire behind you of competition trying to keep up. So that for me is one of the biggest challenges, and how I resolve that is that with our sub team, we always try to break down larger goals into smaller goals and more achievable goals. So if we have a large business based goal at the high level, then we say, okay, how can we as a advanced process and technical support team, how do we provide our expertise to kind of get us one step closer to that? So I think that's the way we've been doing it. And being a process engineer, you have to be very technical. You have to think from first principles and break down large problems into smaller action items. That helps us to execute those projects, and it's been extremely successful, at least in our team um, and Kite as a whole. But that's what I would say. It's just the speed and the shift and the dynamic of the work here, and we really try to stay ahead of the competition. We try to bring in new technologies. We're trying to target, of course, new indications. So that's, I would say, the biggest challenge in any startup company too. I would say. There was another part of the question on it. I can't remember what it was. Sorry.
No problem. Um, so I can go back to that question. So, what are some of the challenges you face? What's your approach to resolve them? I think you already mentioned
Yeah,
some of those aspects: first principle thinking, and
key
yeah,
attributes.
key skills that you could develop to be successful.
Yeah, I think is to be open-minded. I think the skill and be open-minded and have the ability to converse. And I would say the one core skill required, I think, in kite pharma is to be adaptable. You cannot be consistently comfortable in your position. You have to be ready to pivot and take on new challenges and take on new projects and a new direction that's given by leadership, which makes the work so exciting and I think makes Kite Pharma so unique. You will rarely be bored at Kite Pharma. Uh, there's always new projects. We're always continuously trying to innovate and drive. And I think in order to be successful in a company, which that's one of the key kind of culture components, you need to be very adaptable. You cannot be stuck in your ways. You need to be open minded. And given the background of people here and the diverse educational background and culture background, it's just a melting pot of thinking, critical thinking, and just expertise. So I think you can really flourish here if you're open minded. That for me is the key driver, and of course to be driven yourself, that you want to impact, because we're not just a business. We're not just developing also like large tanks of millions of shots of an insulin drug. We are basically have a patient in a hospital bed waiting for the delivery of that of those engineered T cells back to them. So we need to be quick, we need to be fast, but also keeping in mind that what we do is something that's super important, that's life changing. And whenever we do get to meet those patients, it's a very good reminder of what we do, and helps keep you very honest.
Yes. And yeah, you mentioned new projects, setting up new directions. Perhaps as a last question, a more content related question. Do you see Kite ever using CAR T technology for other diseases? Or is this focused solely on oncology?
I would say in yeah the developmental direction in the US, I would say yes. If it's possible, Kite's probably going to go for it. I don't know to what extent the development is at the moment, or what where we are, but we are using CAR T to develop it for other types of oncologies, for other treatments. I'm not aware, but if it's possible, Kite will probably be one of the first to do it.
Yeah, thank you very
Yeah.
much. Yeah, that was it for the outstanding questions in the chat, and we're also at the end of the time of the session. So, yeah, thank you very much for sharing your insights about your job and how it is to work at Kite Pharma. If there's any more questions, yeah, go to the Kite booth or connect with the people via the meeting hub. And yeah, you can also exchange contact details, then ask further questions. Thank you very much, Moyet, and yeah, have a nice day. And to the rest,
Thank
yeah,
you
have
so
a nice
much,
day at
Jamie.
the career fair.
Thank you. Good luck, everybody.